Greetings, friend, and welcome to the Between the Covers podcast, where we are working every day to remove the self-limiting beliefs that are preventing us from becoming the heroes of our own stories. I am Marcus Spar. Before we jump into today's topic, I do just want to remind you, if you are enjoying this podcast, then don't forget to click the subscribe button and like the video and leave a comment. Today, I want to talk about taking care of yourself. This is something that has been very near and dear to me. In fact, in one of the first 10 episodes that I released, I talked specifically about self-care. I want to touch on this one more time here. And I'm probably going to talk about this more in the future just as things come up. A very personal example of this is how I have been wrestling with my own depression lately. It's something that's been going on now for several months, and a lot of it has been tied to the mental health crisis that I had to navigate back in 2023. And I did not realize how much of an impact that had made on me. And really what made me realize that something very big needed to happen is I started to have intrusive thoughts, specifically while I was using some sharp knives to cut vegetables this one night. And these dark thoughts came in and I was like, whoa, I have not thought any of these thoughts since I was in high school. Feel free to go back and listen to the dark years that I shared in part 3 with my story to get a better idea of what that's talking about. I was having thoughts that it was going to be easy to just end my existence, and those are very scary thoughts to have. That let me know that there was something much bigger going on, something that I needed to address better. And bear in mind, I have had my awesome friend group and support from there. I've had some family. I have tried to do what I can to get away and incorporate some very healthy self-care activities. I have tried to do a lot to take care of myself, and this is when I realized that something more needed to be done. And that was when I decided to look at something more medical of how I can help myself through this. And I have a doctor who is very empathetic and understanding and willing to help me. And with her help, I got on an antidepressant. I know that there are a lot of people who are hesitant to get on something like an antidepressant, anti-anxiety, or some other kind of medication. And I am not here to judge whether you have misgivings about it, whether you are totally okay with it, or you're somewhere in between. For me personally, I have often wrestled with thoughts that I should be able to do this myself, that by admitting that I need something like a medication, that I am weak, that I'm not good enough, and sometimes it's valuable to just swallow that pride and say, you know what, I need help. I really need help to get through this. Over the course of, what is it now? About 4 or 5 months now, I have been on an antidepressant, and I've been taking it every day. I have been continuing to do what I need to in order to take care of myself. If that means there are some days I don't get as much work done and I need to rest, then I allow myself to do that. I'm still engaging in healthy activities with my friends. I still will play with my puppy Odin, who's currently snoozing in the background of this episode. I have been doing a lot still in order to take care of my needs. And I did not realize how I was not doing that for a long time, a very long time, actually. I kept allowing other people's needs and crises to dictate what I was doing, and a lot of times it would just wear me out. I would be exhausted. I would just get to the end of a day and I would crash. And this was an example of how I was not doing a great job of taking care of myself. I was in a much more dire place than sometimes I was even willing to admit to myself. And over the last 4 or 5 months or so, I have seen some incredible improvements. I am much more jovial. I don't wake up and am just like, ugh, it's going to be another one of those days. I really noticed something was changing when I went to do a mace workout with my friend Ben, and one of the other people that attends his church that goes to this workout 3 times a week. She was there. We were just kind of talking and joking, and I've got this 20-pound mace that's I don't know, it's like 3.5 feet tall from shaft to the steel head at the end of it. And I just started using that and was dancing around it. It's on the ground and I'm holding it up and I'm kicking my feet around. I'm pretending to do Singing in the Rain as I'm dancing around it, and then she makes a comment how it's more like I'm dancing around a maypole, and I'm like, oh, yeah, whatever works for you. And I was just having fun. I have been in a much better headspace because I have been doing what is necessary for me to get back to a sense of not necessarily normalcy, but more like a sense of balance. I have been weighing the scales against myself for too long. And this has been a season where it has been necessary for me to take some additional steps so that I am able to get back to a much more regulated state. I have, there were months where I would lie down to go to sleep and I would be so nauseous that I would wonder if that night was going to be the night that I'd have to get up and just throw everything in the toilet. And I think I'd been on this medication for 2 or 3 weeks or something like that when I realized, wow, I have been going to bed and I've not been feeling nauseous. I've not felt like I'm going to throw up. And I was almost as shocked by that realization as I was that I needed to do something more. Sometimes life just gets harder. There's no getting around it. Sometimes life is just challenging. Sometimes your normal, what you do to take care of yourself, what you do to meet your needs, what you do to survive just isn't enough, and you need to do more. And I just want to encourage you that if that's something that you're experiencing, especially with this most recent election cycle, I don't know about you, but I have been so tired of all of this political stuff. It drained me just to read through my voter's pamphlet. And sometimes you are just going to need to do a little more to take care of yourself. And that is all right. It is okay if you need to give yourself some extra sleep. It's okay if you need to either find a therapist or maybe increase the number of times that you're seeing a therapist just so you have a safe place to talk. Sometimes you might just need to let the dishes pile up a little bit and just say, screw it, I am too tired, I'm too exhausted, because they're going to be there tomorrow. It is important that you do take care of yourself. I specifically want to speak with those who are caregivers. We can do a very good job of giving of ourselves, that we focus too much on the needs of others, that we forego our own needs. And that's something that is very common, and sometimes it's necessary, but give yourself a break every now and again. I have been the primary caretaker for Odin. I have still been helping Libby as she has little bouts of anxiety. I have been the one who handles a lot of the regular chores. Sometimes I have a day where I have no client calls and I'm like, great, I can record podcasts and I can produce them. I can do all of this extra work, and things get away from me and I sit down and I've only got like 2 hours in order to devote to my work because other things are coming up. Other things are demanding my attention and my time. Even with all of that going on, it is important that you give yourself what you need. Give yourself a break. Relax. Maybe allow yourself to sleep in or take a nap if that's something that you need. Enjoy a movie. Share a movie with someone. Maybe if you're one of those who has children and you're the one who's the primary caregiver, might be time to just say, you know what, I need a little bit of a break. Can you watch the kids for the day for a couple hours while I just go out with my friends? Whatever it is that you need. If you don't take care of yourself, if you don't, well, we do a really good job here, especially in, I would say, Western intellectual societies, of just staying inside of our own heads. And we do miss out on a lot of information with that. Sometimes, I am as guilty of this as anyone. I will have the most tense shoulder muscles, and I don't even realize it. I have no sense of how tight those muscles are. And then my partner Libby will come over and start to massage my neck and my shoulders, and she'll be like, man, your shoulders are really tight. Don't you feel that knot? And I'm like, nope, I don't feel any of it. Because for so long I had been trained to just stay in my head. There will be times when we do need to be logical and be rational and stay within our minds. And then there are times when we really need to check in with ourselves and just say, hey, you know what? I think I have to say no to this family engagement. I think I can't do that right now. I am just so tired. I just need a break. I need to have some quality me time. I need to do whatever it is that I need to do in order to recharge. It's okay to do that. Okay? It is okay to do things that will recharge you. You don't need to just give and give and give. Eventually, you will run out. And when that happens, it ends up putting you in a pretty bad place. I've seen it happen a lot. Especially for, as I was saying, caregivers or those who are healers. I remember hearing from, it was either a coach or a therapist a while back, of who heals the healers. When you are a therapist, if you're a coach, if you're a doctor, there are a lot of times when individuals that you are friends with kind of take advantage of that position to where they're like, hey, I've got this weird thing going on, or hey, what are your thoughts about this? And I had this conversation. Am I looking into this too much, or did I do something stupid, or is the other person just being irrational about it? And especially we who are healers, there are a lot of people that don't recognize that we need healing too. As my mentor and coach Lori has said, a good coach is one who is being coached. A therapist, a good therapist, is one who is doing their own work as well. That they have their own therapist that they are working with. Because we can only give so much. So take care of yourself. However that looks. Maybe it's something that you do every week. Maybe you carve out a little time every single day. Maybe you plan a week or two long vacation. Oh man, I was actually talking with my friend Dan, and one of the things that I've constantly struggled with since I started this business is giving myself vacations. When I worked as a substitute teacher, it was so easy to have my vacation time because the school mandated what the spring break, winter break, summer break, all of the holidays and days off and development days and snow days and all of that kind of stuff. It was very easy for me to have time off when I didn't have my own classroom. Since I have been a small business owner myself, I have tried to take a week off just as a vacation every single quarter. And I believe I only did that once. 1 year did I actually manage to pull that off. Because I'm not making it a priority. I have known many people who just never use their vacation time. And some of them are in that boat where it's like, you know what, I'd rather cash it in and just get paid for it. And that's very American, that's very capitalistic, and there is so much more to life than just a number in a bank account. Sometimes having that rest is beneficial. And I often wonder how many people don't take these measures of vacations or holidays, because if they were to slow down, then that would mean they would be left to their own devices and they wouldn't be able to run away or distract themselves from maybe some thoughts or some feelings that are coming up. I've known of people who really struggle with any kind of free time because they have no identity outside of work. They get up in the morning, they get ready, they leave for work, they work all day, and they come home and maybe they're still checking emails on their laptops or on their phone. Maybe there's still some calls that are coming in. Maybe they are having to field questions. And even over the weekend, they just have this mentality of work and work and work. Yet, if they actually had free time, they don't have any hobbies that they can devote any time and energy to. For me, that's one of the things that's truly sad. We live in a world that has so much for us to explore and learn that having nothing besides work that you find any kind of time for. I remember days, of course, this was a little bit before my time, but I do remember times when people would have their little pet projects of fixing up a car, which I'm not a car person. I don't really have much of a desire to try and fix a car. But there would be those individuals who would take out the owner's manual and they would do a lot of their own work. They would replace parts, they would improve things, they would just do all of this stuff to tinker with their vehicles, and that was a hobby. That was something that they did that engaged their brain and they would use their free time for. And I think to a certain degree, considering that we have moved more towards consuming, that it might be difficult for people to create. I know I've definitely been there. I've mentioned that here on this podcast. It's hard for me to get into a mode of creating because it can be so much easier to just consume. One of the things that Libby and I will talk about quite often is there are certain things that Libby wants to do, but she doesn't do it because she doesn't feel she's being productive. There is more to life than being productive. Sometimes it's so valuable to just have fun. Sometimes it's valuable to laugh. Sometimes it's okay to just set aside some chores in order to go do something fun, in order to do something a little more life-giving. Maybe it's to have a good conversation with a friend or a family member. Maybe it's actually going out, spending some time in nature. I've been enjoying a lot more nature these days as I've been taking Odin out for walks and go play out in our backyard and everything like that. Maybe it would be valuable for you to spend some time volunteering somewhere that your heart just calls you to. Maybe it's something like an animal shelter or a homeless shelter or a senior center. Maybe it's a library, just doing something in the community. There is so much out there that we can do that can just bring us life and light. There is so much that we can do that will restore us. Allow yourself to be restored. Give yourself permission to be restored. Give yourself permission to receive instead of giving all the time. The last thing that I want is for someone else to go through the same stuff that I've gone through, where I feel like I'm doing okay, and then I have some dark thoughts that come in, and I learn otherwise. No, I'm not doing as well as I thought. And I needed to step up my game on self-care and recharging and taking care of myself. And maybe it's something where you do need some kind of medical intervention. I am not a doctor. I am not giving any kind of medical advice. Before you do anything like that, consult a medical professional that you trust. Sometimes that's what you need. I needed this antidepressant coupled with my friends and my family, coupled with my therapy, coupled with stepping away from a source of trauma in my life. I needed all of that in order to get to a much healthier place. And I am living such an awesome life now. I laugh, I joke, I have fun. I am just giddy about life. I have things that I look forward to instead of looking at my week and being like, oh, there's not really much that I anticipate enjoying. Whatever you need to do, just take care of yourself. You are worth it. You are worth taking care of. Especially if you're one who takes care of others. Absolutely take care of yourself. And until next time, live strong for today.